Butt Kicker. Feel what you've been missing. Get yours today at thebuttkicker.com and be sure to use our 20% discount promo code ISCA20.
There are moments that surprise and delight the mind and the senses. Introducing Sound Art, the world's first truly customizable, concealed, flat-panel art speaker system. A revolutionary combination of incredible sound delivered from your most meaningful pictures. When art and technology intersect, there is a seamless blend of creativity and function.
I'm alive in the streetlight, pulling at the stars in the moonlight. Every time I feel you close.
With Sound Art, anyone can print their own artwork or pick from numerous licensed artwork that we have. The possibilities are limitless. Enjoy beautiful and amazing sound throughout your home. The entire surface of your artwork generates incredibly robust sound. Your art never sounded so good.
Welcome in, race fans, to the Tucson Sound Art 200 at Las Vegas. I'm Brandon Robinson. I'll be in the booth with you here this evening. This is iRacing Stock Car Association, and we are proud to have you here in the broadcast. We're going to go through some qualifying right now, 5 minutes, best of 2 laps. Looks like we're going to have 10 or maybe 11 drivers make the grid tonight. This is a new series here with ISCA. And this will be their second week of action with these Saturday nights. They do run other series through the week. Definitely check these guys out on Facebook. Just search ISCA and get in the Discord and get out there on the track with these guys. Of course, Las Vegas here tonight. Many of us iRacers have ran the officials in the Cups, NIS. You know what this track's about. This should really bring in some good, clean, fast racing here tonight. I'm looking forward to watching these guys go around. It's going to be 134 laps here at Vegas. And we are doing stage racing as well. So a little bit of strategy will play into that. Right now, Frank Flores actually just getting beat out by Chris Johnson right now with a 30.0. Martin Bork on the board with a 29.88. The Canadian taking that pole position right now. Still waiting for a couple of guys to finish their qualifying session. Chris Johnson, P2. Frank Flores in third. Matthew Tyrrell takes the top spot, 29.69. We're still waiting on, I think, about 3 guys to go through qualifying here. We'll get the official times before gridding here in just a few moments. Again, we appreciate you guys checking us out here on this fine Saturday evening. 134 laps at Las Vegas. One or two more drivers yet to make their qualifying laps. But right now, Marty Phillips with a 29.6. That does imitate the practice session time as well. I think the fastest time was a 29.66, which we see Wayne Grossi do there. But Marty Phillips coming in hot with a 29.6 flat. And I believe still waiting on Pedro Henrique. But it looks like Marty Phillips is going to be your pole sitter here tonight at Vegas with a 29.6 flat. Once we get these guys situated, we'll get them on the grid. We'll get back to, or we'll start some green flag racing. Just a short time left in the session, but it does look like all the drivers have completed their qualifying session. So the times you see on the left of your screen are going to be official. Those are the final times. Marty Phillips, Wayne Grossi in the front row, 1 and 2. Greg Wachinski, Martin Bork. Behind them, row 2, 3rd, and 4th. Chris Johnson going to be in that 5th spot. Matthew Tyrrell in the 6th. Kenny Powell, Frank Flores, 7-8. Robert Pettengale and Jay Hone, 9th and 10th. All righty, ladies and gentlemen, before we get to green flag racing, we're going to take a pause and do the national anthem.
race fans, it is time for those most famous words in motorsports.
Driver, start your engine!
Okay. All right, sorry. Count me down. Count me down. All righty, welcome back, race fans. Wouldn't be a NASCAR event without the national anthem. We will go over the grid one more time for you guys here. Marty Phillips does hold that pole position. On the outside of him in that 7 Pennzoil car going to be Wayne Grassi. Greg Wachinski in third. Martin Bork fourth. Christy Johnson in the 48 Ford, going to be in that top 5. Matthew Tyrrell behind him in the 29 Chevrolet in sixth. Kenny Powell, the only Toyota out there, he's in that 24 car, going to be starting 7th on the inside of row 4. Frank Flores on the outside of him. Robert Pettengale in 9th. Jay Hone 10th. Brian Johnson and Pedro Henrique making his presence all the way from Brazil. Going to be in the 41 Ford, locking us up on the back end there in 12th. So he's going to have a little bit of work to go through the field here. 12 cars, but all these guys, A-class drivers, all their safety ratings are above 3. A lot of I rating in here. We won't go through those specifics, but let me tell you something, guys. All these drivers out there on the track right now, highly skilled, experienced drivers, should make for a really, really good race. Now, if you're new to ISCA and you're just coming into the stream for the very first time, this is a new series here, the ISCA Cup Series. This is only the 2nd week of racing. So these guys are still growing. Make sure you search them up on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch as we are live across all 3 platforms. Get a hold of league owners and league admins. If this is something you're looking to get into on a Saturday night, certainly have the spots for you. Again, this will be stage racing here. Let me get that lap count for you guys at home. So, 3 stages. The first stage is going to be 30 laps. We'll throw that caution. Drivers will be able to come down, get some tires, some fuel. The second stage is going to be 35 laps. That'll take us to lap 65. We'll throw another stage caution at that time. And then the third stage, getting us all the way to lap 134. So by then, all these drivers are going to need to make sure they got their racing line figured out, comfortable with each other out there. That will be, of course, the longest stage and the most important stage of the night. So in stage racing, it does allow a little bit of relaxation there. You know that caution's going to drop, and you know when it's going to drop. So there should really be some really smooth, clean racing up until that point. Of course, racing incidents do happen. We'll see how that plays out, but stage racing certainly makes for an exciting event, especially when you get to that third stage. So we'll see if those guys take advantage of their 12 drivers on the grid here. We talked about Pedro a little bit, how he's got to work his way up through the field. He'll certainly be taking advantage of the stages, trying to grab a few spots here at a time. Now, here at Las Vegas in the Cup cars, I would assume most of these drivers on the low end are going to be running 12-to-1 steering ratio, and on the high end, these guys with a 16-to-1 ratio. That's going to save tires. It's going to allow the car to be less twitchy. Now, of course, it's going to be a little difficult when you start spinning with a higher steering ratio to catch that, but it'll certainly help in the long game with tire wear and things like that. Pace car is off. We're going to get to some green flag racing. Marty Phillips and Wayne Grossi right there on that front row. You see the 7 car about a car length behind the 21, making sure he sees when Marty Phillips does take the green flag, and we are underway here at Las Vegas. The 5 car of Greg Wyszynski already on the move. Now, he started P3. He had that advantage of starting behind the leader right there on that back bumper. That's going to allow him to get that second spot. Now he's looking onto the inside of Marty Phillips, and we might already have a lead change here on lap 1, down into turn 3, out of turn 4. It is going to be the 5 car of Greg Wyszynski taking over this race lead after lap 1. So the 21 car going to just kind of check up, fall in line. It should be single file with those first 3 cars there. The 48 car of Chris Johnson, he's up 2 spots already. He's going to take over that 3rd spot. The 7 car of Wayne Grossi falling back just a little bit since we gone green, but again, a long way to go. The stages are going to help. There's no rush to try to make up that time. He can kind of just chill out in that 4th spot, but he's already down 2, and he's got Matthew Tyrrell on his back bumper. He's up a spot, up to P5. But right now, Greg Wyszynski, your race leader down the backstretch. 48 car looking to get on the inside of Marty Phillips. That's for 2nd. Now, a lot of these guys, while they have the tires, can most certainly run that inside line relatively quick. The 21 car of Marty Phillips riding that high line at a disadvantage right now, but as this stage progresses, about lap 15, lap 20, riding that high line, especially if he's got a big steering ratio, certainly saving some tires on that 21 Pennzoil Chevrolet. We'll see if that's the thought process with him, as he's been on that high side since green flag racing. We see this 3-man pack here, starting with the 24 car. Again, the only Toyota out in the field. These guys are side by side. Down into turn 1, out of the backstretch. This is the race for 5th. Matthew Tyrrell, Brian Johnson up 4 spots already in that number 4 Chevrolet. He's up to P7. So we already see some drivers making their way through that field pretty convincingly. A little worried about Marty Phillips, though. Already down 5 spots. He was your pole sitter. He had a convincing time for that pole. But since then, he has dropped 6 spots. Now, we were just talking about that, about him taking that high line, maybe saving some tires, thinking about the green flag run. But even though it's a stage race, you still want to focus on track positioning here. And with him dropping back like that, that's something to keep our eye on right there. Here in the early going, Martin Bork, another one. He's down 5 spots. He finds himself in 9th. He's in that 71 Chevrolet. This is the iRacing Stock Car Association Cup Series on Saturday nights. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We are live across 3 platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch at ISCA. Back up front, we'll check in with the race leader, Greg Wyszynski. He's got that 48 car hot on his heels right now. In fact, the 48 looking to go on the inside to take the race lead. These guys are drag racing down the backstretch here. Ford versus Chevy going down into turn 3. Nobody with the clear advantage right now as they get onto the front stretch. You see the 48 car diving all the way down past that white line. That's perfectly legal. A lot of guys do that to try and just cut the track a little bit. You see it at Chicagoland a lot. You see it at Atlanta. You see it here at Las Vegas. You ever see a car cut below that white line there? That's just trying to cut the track and get to where you're going in the shortest amount of time possible. However, advantage out of that, Greg Wychinski. He takes the race lead back in that number 5 Chevrolet. We see the bunch there, the 29 car working alongside the 4 car and the 21. It looks like Marty Phillips, yeah, he dropped back a little bit. He's back in P6 right now, but I think maybe that's what he wanted. Maybe he dropped back, which is why he was running that high side. He wants to avoid any kind of carnage that may take place here in this first stage. And right now, he's sitting comfortable. So Chris Johnson in the 48 Ford tried taking a stab at the race lead down on that inside line. When you have stage racing like this, particularly that first stage, only being 30 laps, you can use up those tires maybe a little bit more if this weren't stage racing, or, you know, in that third stage when we are going to have a little bit of a longer distance, you do have to focus a little bit more on taking care of your equipment, taking care of your tires. But on this first stage, 30 laps, he was definitely going for it, not really worried about that front right. But Greg, just so much faster throughout the track, being able to reclaim the race lead, and he hasn't looked back since. Now, back behind those guys in third is the 24 car of Kenny Powell. He's right there in that middle line. Below him in the 7 is Wayne Grossi. He was taking a peek on that inside line. No avail there. The 4 car now of Brian Johnson on the outside of him. These guys are racing for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. See a couple of Pennzoil guys out there. And they are currently working together on that inside line. Lap 13 out of 134. It's been green flag the whole way here tonight. Shout out to partner of ISCA, Butt Kicker. Feel what you've been missing. So this is what we were talking about at the beginning of the race. This has been expected. It's a 12-car field. It's Vegas. I'm not going to say it's the easiest track to drive, but 1.5 miles are usually fits everybody's comfort zone. It's a multi-groove track for the most part. You can take that high line and carry off the momentum to be able to beat that guy that's on the inside. Everybody giving each other plenty of room. We have seen plenty of two-wide action, though, but these guys, like I said before we went green, these guys are all boasting A-class license. Their I rating is through the roof. We have a really good competitive field here, but more importantly, these guys certainly having some racecraft, and that's going to allow us to have these long green flag runs, and that's what we've seen so far at the beginning of this race. Since that little battle between Greg and Chris, Greg convincingly taking over this race once more. He's built to himself a nice little buffer in front of Chris Johnson, about 1/4 of a second, which doesn't seem like a lot, but here in stock car racing, it most certainly is. As you take a look, there's really nobody on the back bumper of Greg. He's up there in the lead by himself. He's watching Chris Johnson and Brian Johnson race each other behind him. You always like seeing that in the mirror. There might even be Kenny Powell trying to get his way. That's a 3-man fight there for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, but that's what you want to see when you're a race leader. When Greg looks back in his mirror, he wants to see those guys fighting each other. It's costing them a little bit of time. They're not working in the draft. You don't get a huge surge through the draft here at Vegas, but there's definitely a slipstream there nonetheless. So when he sees 2 guys battling it out side by side behind him, that's exactly what he wants to see, and he's been in control of this race pretty much ever since the green flag. These guys racing till lap 30. Again, we'll drop the caution. Everybody will come down pit road, get gas, get a fresh set of tires. The second stage will be 35 laps. That'll take us to lap 65. And then that third stage, being the longest, that's going to take us to lap 134. I think that long stage is when you'll really start seeing some guys pull the trigger on some things. Right now, stage 1, 30 laps. There's really no need to be a hero. You're not going to win the race here in stage 1. Everybody is playing nice right now. But once we make it to that third stage, or maybe even the second half of the second stage, I think we're going to start seeing some much tighter racing and some guys really fighting for track position. Back up front, though, Brian Johnson being able to make the pass on Chris Johnson, definitely not losing any momentum. He's closing in on race leader Greg Wyszynski. His gap right now, only 0.10, and here we go. The race for the lead has a new contender in that Ford Chevrolet. Brian Johnson onto the backstretch. See if he peeks on the inside here. Well, that 5 car, he's going to close the door on that as he gets down to that white line. Certainly not giving any room for Brian to be able to peek down onto that inside across the front stretch. It's only a matter of time before this 4 car does make a move. And here we go. The 5 car drifting up to the middle of the track. That's going to open the door for the 4 car, Brian Johnson, to get onto the inside. We've seen this before, though, with the 48 cars. These cars drag race down into turn 3. Greg was able to survive the surge from the 48. Let's see if he can do the same with this 4 car. Or is he going to give up the lead? It's almost playing out exactly how it did about 10 laps ago with the other Johnson. He did get a lap led, but then shortly after, on the high side, that 5 car gets such a good run, a lot of momentum. We see it right there. He's going to take back over the race lead, at least on the back stretch. But that 4 car really working that driver's side. And Chris Johnson kind of following suit there. He sees that opening on the bottom line. He's going to want to take it, and that's what he's doing right now. The 5 car's got to be real careful here. Greg Wyszynski certainly doesn't want to lose the lead, but even worse, he doesn't want that 48 car to sneak up onto the back bumper of Brian Johnson. If he decides he's got to push to take the lead, he might end up losing 2 or 3 spots, as we now see the 24 car of Kenny Powell make his way up to the back end of this first pack. This is Greg Wyszynski, Brian Johnson, Chris Johnson, and Kenny Powell, 1 through 4, stage 1 here at Vegas. You see the 24 car just blow the doors off of Brian Johnson. That's Kenny Powell. Now he's working on the inside of the 48 car of Chris Johnson as they make their way out of turn 2, down onto the backstretch. That Toyota Camry trying to catch as much of that draft as he can, getting pulled and pushed. We'll see if he can get a run on the 48, stage 1 coming to a close here. Everybody racing to lap 30 right now at the moment. 5 more laps before stage 1 is done. A lot of bonus points go in to this stage racing here, so certainly Wyszynski not wanting to give up that top spot. He had to fight off 2 contenders, and so far successfully doing so, as he looks to be the race favorite right now, doing everything right. Looked like the 24 car might have burnt his front right out trying to catch that pack. He had passed the 4 car previously about 2 laps ago, but since then it looks like he is all but done as far as grip goes. Sometimes that's how it's got to be, though, especially late in these stages. You're really not thinking about tire wear as much as you are track position, but it looks like it costed him a little bit as now he's tucked behind that 4 car of Mr. Johnson. Now, what's really cool here at ISCA, that driver detail that you'll see on the right of your screen pop up every so often. It's got the driver name, the number, the manufacturer, where they're racing from, but it also has some other details like their license, their I rating, what's their current miles per hour, and their RPMs. It's got the relative on there. So some unique information here at ISCA to try to keep you guys as engaged as possible with these races. Just a phenomenal job from the production crew back home, putting all these overlays together. Really appreciate these guys reaching out to me, making this race happen here for you guys tonight as we do close up stage 1. And it's going to be Wachinski crossing the line, taking that first stage. Well, eventually. I think I was a lap too soon there. As we hear some guys asking the same question I was in the booth, it was the conclusion of lap 30. Of course, they want to make sure everybody crosses that line before throwing that caution. Right now, stage 1 goes to Wachinski. We're going to take a commercial break. We'll see you on the other side.
Butt Kicker. Feel what you've been missing. Get yours today at thebuttkicker.com and be sure to use our 20% discount promo code ISCA20.
Welcome back. The end of stage 1 saw Greg Wachinski taking that in dominant fashion as we watched the race off pit road. Everybody coming down, getting the same thing, refueling, getting 4 tires. We're going to do 35 laps, stage 2. And it looks like that number 5 car of Greg Wachinski winning that race off pit road. So he's looking to do exactly what he did in stage 1 this time around. He did have some competitors there. Brian Johnson, Kenny Powell, and Chris Johnson all took a stab on the inside of Greg Wachinski there, but not being able to get it done. Greg running that mid to high line so smooth, coming out with so much momentum. Now, we did have a couple of drivers lead a lap on Greg, but back on the through turn 1 and 2 onto the backstretch, he was able to secure that lead back. He'll get the points for stage 1. And right now, you can't sweep stages until you win the first one. So we'll just go ahead and say it. Greg looking to sweep all the stages here. And everybody else playing catch up. Now, checking back in with some of the guys. Pedro Henrique, he's up 3 spots in 9th. Remember, he started at the back of the field in 12th. So he's had his hands full trying to work his way up. Gaining 3 spots after the first stage. Not too shabby. Again, these guys don't have to go out there and pressure themselves to gain all these spots until really we hit that 3rd stage. So he's doing a terrific job right now. Talking about some of the big losers of stage 1, of course, I mean that spots-wise. I'm sure these are all great guys, but Wayne Grossi losing 5 spots in that stage 1. He's going to be restarting this in 7th. Behind him, Martin Bork. He lost 4 spots since that green flag dropped. He's back there in 8th. Now, the biggest mover is that 4 car of Brian Johnson. He's going to be on the front row alongside Greg Wychinski when we get back to green flag racing here. 9 spots in stage 1. Really impressive drive for that number 4 Chevrolet. And there is that 5 car of Greg getting back under green. Stage 2. Now, I was looking to see that 24 car of Kenny started P3. Really, I always talk about this. That's the second best seat in the house on these restarts. Of course, being the leader, you can anticipate when you're going to go. But when you're on the outside like Brian Johnson was, you almost have to give up about a quarter or a half of a car length at most, ideally, to be able to see when that pole sitter is going to make the jump. Therefore, that third place car, usually right on the back bumper of the guy restarting first, able to take that second position away. But we see Brian Johnson with a phenomenal restart on that outside line. He's looking to take the race lead. And here comes the 24 car. We might be going 3 wide here. And we are for the moment. Coming down turn 3 out of turn 4. Here comes the 48 car now. So Kenny Powell, your new race leader, fighting it out with Brian Johnson. Side by side, racing down into turn 1. You see the first 3 rows of drivers there, all double wide. Action picking up here in the second stage. I think we might even see some 3 wide down into turn 3 if the 48 car decides to do so. Nope, the 5 clears the 24. So Greg Wychinski with a little bit of a scare there. He dropped back a good 3 spots, but he's right back up there in P2. But now it's his time to chase Brian Johnson around here at Vegas as he looks to reclaim his lead. Wayne Grossi and Kenny Powell, along with the 48 car. These guys are battling out. That's for 3rd, 4th, and 5th. The 29 of Matthew Tyrell. He's kind of been hanging around all race here in 6th. That's where he started the race, and that's where he is currently. So him and Chris Johnson, both 5th and 6th right now. We'll see if the 29 car is kind of hanging back. Most certainly showing some consistency out there. We'll see if he can get his Chevrolet up to the front here, as he's on that high side right behind that 7 car of Wayne Grossi. But Brian Johnson, we talked about it at the start of that stage, up 9 spots, started P2, obviously taking over the race lead, up 10 spots. A phenomenal race right now coming out of that Chevrolet. He's got the tough task, though. He's definitely doing some mirror driving with Greg Wychinski, who dominated that first stage. These guys now starting to separate themselves from the field. Kenny Powell back in 3rd. 0.8 seconds off race leader Brian Johnson right now. So these two up front starting to build themselves a little bit of a gap from the rest of the field. Kenny Powell hanging back in 3rd. He's up 4 spots since the beginning of this. Qualified 7th. Looked like he was going to get a good run at the end of stage 1. I think he ran out of tires. Ended up restarting 4th on stage 2. He's now finding himself in that 3rd spot in front of the 48 car of Chris Johnson. Wayne Grossi there in the top 5. And Chris Johnson in that 48 Ford was contending for the lead pretty much that whole stage 1. Now with him falling back to 4th, he's not in bad shape by any means, but I'm wondering if this stage being a little bit longer, even though it's 5 laps, but your tires really start to go here at Las Vegas. Those extra 5 laps is a lot, and I think that 48 car is just kind of doing his best to keep pace with the 24, but he's most certainly not shredding his tires like I think a lot of these guys did during stage 1. So we'll have to keep an eye on Chris Johnson, see if he makes a return into that top 3, top 2 contention by the end of this second stage. Brian Johnson in complete race control, though, currently. Doing his best to imitate Greg's stage 1. Again, Greg leading pretty much every lap except maybe 3 or 4 out of those 30. Brian Johnson looking to do the same. Coming down onto the backstretch, the first through 6, pretty much single file right now. Pedro now up a total of 5 spots. He's found himself in 7th. This is the highest he's been in that Ford Mustang. So now starting to get on the move. We'll see just how high he climbs. It looks like he's taking a peek out of the inside of the 7 car of Wayne Grossi. Nothing there. Behind Pedro, Marty Phillips. Now remember, this was your pole sitter at the beginning of this race in that 21 Pennzoil. He kind of fell back in stage 1. I thought maybe it could have been something intentional. He didn't want to burn his tires up. Maybe he was going to make a late push towards stage 1. Here in the early going of stage 2, he continues to drop back, currently P8, so maybe some trouble on that 21 car. He had a time of 29.6 in qualifying. As we look at some of the best laps so far, Brian Johnson, your race leader, with a 29.72. Currently the best lap of the night. Behind him is the 3rd place car of Kenny Powell, 29.85. Or no, 29.84, excuse me, to Matthew Tyrrell, who's currently sitting in that 5th spot. So your top 4 drivers right now, all single file, starting to get a little bit of a gap between Chris Johnson and Matthew Tyrrell. Tyrrell looking pretty good towards the end of that stage. I thought that 29 car maybe waited a little bit too long on stage 1. Of course, he still has plenty of time, but it looked like he was getting ready to get on a big move at the end of that stage, as he climbs his way into the top 5 for the first time here tonight. He's the white and pink 29. Behind him, Wayne Grossi. He's down 4 spots since the beginning of this race in P6. He's looking to get that Pennzoil 7 back up to the front. And there is Pedro Henrique behind him, picking up the 2nd most spots of the night so far. Back up front we go. The number 4 car of Brian Johnson right now with a .32 gap over Greg Wychinski. The 24 car of Kenny Powell right behind him. Chris Johnson in 4th. But right now, cruise control for Brian Johnson as he dominates stage 2, leading virtually every lap of this stage. I'm going to keep my eye out on that 48 car of Chris Johnson as well. He was all over Greg Wychinski. In fact, led a lap in stage 1. We'll see if he's kind of sitting back on this second stage, if he can climb back up to P1, P2 himself. But right now, with Brian Johnson in full race control, he's got a lot of work to do. He's about .8 seconds behind race leader Brian Johnson right now. You see all these cars single file at the moment. From first all the way on back to 12th. Jay Hone certainly off pace here in stage 2 in that green 38 Ford Mustang. Not too sure if maybe he had a slip up that we didn't see on stream, or if he's just kind of hanging out in the back, saving all his energy for that third stage. But right now, he's about 12 seconds off of race leader, so he's going to have to start playing some catch up here soon, as stage 2 only goes 35 laps to lap 65. In front of him, Frank Flores in the 28 Chevrolet. He's about 9 seconds off race leader. So some of these guys in the back really going to have to start picking up pace here, try to reach this front pack. Martin Bork started 4th, currently P10. Once you start getting away from these people, I know it's just a 1.5 mile track, but you start losing that slipstream, that draft, you really start getting left in the dust. These guys really need to bunch up. If I was these guys, I'd start getting on the radio with one another. Of course, I'm talking about Martin, Frank, and Jay. Might have to start bunching up, turn this into a 3-car draft to be able to try to catch up to the rest of these guys, because in front of them, Robert Pettengale and Marty Phillips, those guys are also really spaced out from the top 5. So some of these guys in the back really going to have to start working together, communicating, and tagging along with one another if they have any shot of catching up to this pack. Of course, stage 2, it kind of saves them. They know there's going to be another break into the action at lap 65. So right now, these guys' main concern is just trying to take care of their equipment, stay off the wall, don't overdrive it. So right now, that's most certainly saving those guys. Brian Johnson, though, back up to a 0.8 lead over Greg Wychinski. We see Chris Johnson in the picture behind him. But Brian really starting to run away with this second stage. 4.99 safety rating on that A-Class. Doesn't get any much better for Brian Johnson. But he also comes in here tonight with the highest I rating, 4.4K. So certainly a lot of experience in this 4-car. He's looking to drive away with stage 2. Last lap, 31.18. Greg in second place with a 31.15. That was the fastest lap that time around. So he's looking to gain a little bit of timing. Matthew, I think, got a little bit loose there. Matthew Tyrell, I heard in the voice comms somebody coming across saying, nice save, Matt. So he must have got a little bit loose there. Las Vegas can tend to do that, especially if you're running a shorter steering ratio, like even a 12-1. Most certainly if you accidentally forget to change it and you're running a 10-1 steering ratio at Vegas, it's very easy, very twitchy to get loose there. But I heard the call on the radio, nice save. But because of that, he's going to lose a little bit of time on that 24 car of Kenny Powell. He was right on the back bumper there pretty much this whole stage. So most certainly something happening. I would just assume getting a little bit loose there coming off one of the corner exits. But being able to save it, keep his car clean, and be able to stay on the lead lap here. Three laps left in stage 2. And it has been all Brian Johnson Of course, I don't want to give him a broadcaster's curse. I'll knock on wood, but unless something crazy happens, he's going to be your stage 2 winner, coming home with those points before heading into stage 3. Shout out to Tucson Sound Art sponsoring tonight's race. This is iRacing.com, official simulator of NASCAR. These guys inked a deal earlier in the year. iRacing certainly going to be the cream of the crop for a long time as far as NASCAR goes. There's the 5 car on the back end of the 48. Those guys, I was looking at a replay there. The 5 car getting passed by the 48 of Johnson. I don't think he liked that very much. He actually got into the back end of him. I wanted to go back and look at that replay. I did. I thought there was contact, and there was. Now, whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. Maybe the 48 car thought he had a better run than what he really did, and just kind of came up a little bit too high. But nonetheless, you certainly don't want to cause any beef going into this caution that we're going to bring up here to enter stage 3. Things are cooking up a little bit here between those two drivers, Chris Johnson and Greg Wyszynski. Giving us a little bit of action here. Stage 2 pretty much been single file. These guys giving each other plenty of room. A lot of racecraft being displayed here tonight. Just some awesome driving by all these drivers here. And we've gone green flag the whole way, other than, of course, the competition yellows for the stages. So that's going to be it for stage 2. Brian Johnson with a phenomenal stage there. Complete dominance. We're going to go into stage 3. This is going to be the big one. This will be lap 134. Take us all the way to the end of the race. So I think we'll start seeing some chippy racing. And we'll catch you guys on the other side of a commercial break.
There are moments that surprise and delight the mind and the senses. Introducing Sound Art, the world's first truly customizable, concealed, flat panel art speaker system. A revolutionary combination of incredible sound delivered from your most meaningful pictures. When art and technology intersect, there is a seamless blend of creativity and function.
Come alive in the streetlight, pulling at the stars in the moonlight. Every time I feel you close.
With Sound Art, anyone can print their own artwork or pick from numerous licensed artwork that we have. The possibilities are limitless. Enjoy beautiful and amazing sound throughout your home. The entire surface of your artwork generates incredibly robust sound. Your art never sounded so good.
So Brian Johnson dominating stage 2, but coming off of pit road, it's actually going to be the other Johnson, the 48 Ford Mustang of Chris Johnson, winning that race off of pit road. Greg Wyszynski with no positions gained. He's going to be coming out of pit road in second. Brian Johnson going to be on the inside of row 2. We've talked about that advantage, at least on these restarts, being right behind the leader, being able to anticipate a little bit. You're not giving up that anticipation as you are on the outside of row 1. So I look for Brian Johnson and Greg Wyszynski to absolutely drag race down into turn 1. Kenny Powell going to be 4th. Matthew Tyrrell still gatekeeping that top 5. Wayne Grassi 6th. Pedro Henrique. We checked in with him after the last stage, starting P12th. He had made his way up to 8th. Now finds himself P7. So he's climbed up 5 spots. And I think that's what he was doing. I mean, he had a bad qualifying run. I don't even think he put down a lap time. So stage 1 to stage 2, he got as much track position as he could without overdriving his car. But I look for Pedro to really turn it on here at stage 3. Martin Bork right now down 7 spots. He's going to be restarting this in 11th. So he most certainly has a lot of work to do. But right now it's going to be about those guys up front. Chris Johnson, Greg Wychinski, Brian Johnson, Kenny Powell. These guys have been here in the front this whole time. And I think with stage 3, even though being a little bit of a longer run, these guys certainly have to consider their tire wear this stage more so than ever. But I think we're going to start seeing some chippy racing here in stage 3. All these guys up front, including that 29 car of Matthew Tyrrell, all have race pace for the most part to be able to win this thing. We'll see how it plays out. Don't forget that contact between the 5 car and the 48. I think could be debatable on whether or not it was intentional or not. But we are back to green flag racing, and that 48 car out to a huge lead right now, down into turn 1. Second and third, Brian Johnson. There's that 29 car of Matthew Tyrrell making his way up into the top 3 for the first time here tonight. But a good jump from Chris Johnson, taking the race lead onto the backstretch, 1 through 5, pretty much all single file. We've been caution-free here tonight at Vegas. Both Johnsons, Chris and Brian, racing for the lead onto the front stretch. Will it get too wide going into turn 1? Yes, it will. Here comes the charge of the 4 car. Gets so much momentum on that high side. He's got the 29 car, Matthew Tyrrell, pushing him in that draft. Down the backstretch into turn 3, out of turn 4. New race leader, Brian Johnson. And now all 4 of these cars, for the most part, were too wide coming out of turn 4. Back in 5th, Greg Wychinski. Sure, he's not going anywhere for too long. He was your stage 1 winner. Brian Johnson back out to the lead, stage 2 winner. Kenny Powell on the outside of the 24 car, or 29 car, excuse me, on the outside of the 24 of Kenny Powell. He's going to take over 3rd once again, and we got our first wreck of the night. That's going to be Kenny Powell in the 24 car up against the wall. His car is a mess. He doesn't have a front end. That was a hard lick from Kenny Powell. We go back and take a look at the replay here. I'm watching it with you guys at home on the broadcast. Coming down into that turn there, the 5 car just gets on that right rear quarter panel and starts turning Kenny Powell. That was Wychinski, excuse me. So we go ahead and take a rewind of that, see if we can get a better angle of these cars. There we go. These guys getting I told you guys, stage 3 is a little bit chippier here. A lot closer racing going on, and there it is, the 5 car right there, just getting into the right rear corner panel. Can we get a chase view from that? Be able to see if I think the 24 car, yeah, there it is, just got up into the 5 car racing line, came up there with a little bit more momentum than he thought. Maybe a spotter told him that he was clear, and then in an instant, he's not. So that's what happened there. Unfortunate. That brings out our first caution, but we talked about this. Stage 3, even though it's a little bit longer, you still have plenty of time. I think everybody's kind of anticipating. We've had 2 really clean stages. Everybody giving each other a lot of space, trying to keep their race car clean up until this point. And down pit road is the 24 car, and just go ahead and take a look at that damage. If we can get a nice shot of that, that is one beat up race car. I do apologize. I'm new to the league here tonight. I'm waiting to see if they have fast repairs here in this league. And it doesn't appear not to be. I'm getting word from the back end here. No. So that 24 car who had a really good run, that's Kenny Powell. His night is all but done. I would assume, looking at that race car, he's got an hour of required repairs there. Unfortunate. Our first caution of the night coming on stage 3 and ending the night for Kenny Powell. Now, even though it wasn't that hard of a lick, we see the 5 car down pit road too. That's Greg Wychinski. Most certainly after stage 1, looking like he was going to be a favorite to win this race, but we see the front end damage on him. He's still in his pit box currently, trying to get his required repairs out of the way. He's going to fall multiple laps down. So that's one race favorite, Greg Wychinski, all but out here under caution alongside Kenny Powell. Now, that's good news for guys like Wayne Grosky and Matthew Tyrrell. Even though at the time Wychinski was running 5th, 6th, he most certainly had the race pace to get back up front, get ahead of those guys. They were struggling in stage 1 to try to catch him. So with him being out, it's next man up in the relative. We see Matthew Tyrrell in that 29 car get up to 3rd, Wayne Grosky 4th, Marty Phillips going to be in that 5th spot, Robert Pettengale going to be restarting 6th, Martin Bork catching a little bit of a break with that caution. He's up into 7th. Pedro, though, falling back. He restarted in 7th. Now he's fallen all the way back to 10th. So he's having a little bit of an up and down night on the back half of this grid. But we'll get a good look of Matthew Tyrrell as the pace car's off. We're going to get back to green flag racing, and that does go to Brian Johnson. And you see that 48 car just dive down low as quickly as he can. On these restarts, that's crucial when you're on the outside. If there's space there, which it most certainly was given by that 29 car, you do want to shoot down below or behind that leader coming out of turn 2. You start getting caught up on that high side. Next thing you know, you go from P2 to P5. So the 48 car of Chris Johnson making sure once that opening was there, he dives back down behind race leader Brian Johnson, and now he's running cleanly P2 with Matthew Tyrrell holding on to that P3. Down to the back stretch, down into turn 3. These guys are single file right now. Johnson and Johnson running 1st, 2nd, Matthew Tyrrell 3rd. Getting a big push from Marty Phillips. Now that's important. That 21 car now back up here in the 4th. He was your pole sitter at the beginning of stage 1. Dropped way back down to the back end of this field. He's now found himself between the last stage and that last caution, being able to restart P4. We'll see if he can be able to find that speed that he had in practice and in qualifying and be able to try to make a run towards at least a podium here. I think that'd be a pretty good night for Marty Phillips, who did struggle through those first 2 stages. On the inside of him is the 7 car of Wayne Grosky. Those guys are too wide. Single file, 1st through 3rd behind them. Marty Phillips and Wayne Grossi still too wide there. Nobody's really got the sure advantage of there, but it's good to see that 21 car getting pushed back up to the front. As you guys just saw, the inside of that 7 car, Wayne Grossi, just what it takes to get around Las Vegas here. A lot of wheeling and dealing here, especially in this dirty air. You see just how close these guys get coming out of the corner exit there. Looked like he might have actually got the 29 of Matthew Tyrrell a little bit loose. But Grossi most certainly putting in the work there, as you guys can see from home. And he's still on the inside of the 21 car, not being able to get that surge on the 29 like he had hoped. Matthew Tyrrell still in control of that 3rd spot. Brian Johnson and Chris Johnson still running 1 and 2. And right now, I'd say it's Brian Johnson's race to lose. I mean, he looked so phenomenal in stage 2. Looked really good in stage 1, too, but I don't really think Greg Wyszynski was going to get caught in that stage. But once stage 2 came around, Brian Johnson took over. He dominated it. He's looking to do the same here in stage 3 right now. If he just races how he knows how, most certainly a clear advantage to that 4 car. The race for 3rd, Matthew Tyrrell, Wayne Grossi. Matthew having a hard time fighting off that 7 car. He keeps peeking on the inside of him. It looks like he's going to get a run. But every time, Matthew just carrying so much momentum off corner exit, being able to shut the door on Wayne Grossi. We'll stick with these guys for a lap or 2. Really looking to see if this 7 car can get the inside run. He's been working on it now for about 4 laps. Really just not being able to get the run that he needs. Now, the big thing with that is we have a long stage here. I know that 7 car wants that 3rd spot from Matthew Tyrrell. But Matthews, you know, when that surge was coming, Matthews kind of chilling on the midline to the high line, and he's making Wayne Grossi do all the work here. You see Wayne getting down all the way to that white line there, abusing those tires right now, trying to get that 3rd spot of Matthew Tyrrell. Certainly going to hurt him in the long run, trying to push for just 1 spot. 17 car of Robert Pettengill. We haven't talked about him a whole lot up until this point. He's up 4 spots since that first stage. He's now gatekeeping that top 5 from Marty Phillips. So the 17 car coming alive here a little bit in the 3rd stage. Checking back with that 5 car of Greg Wyszynski, being able to get those required repairs done in the pits, but you guys can see multiple laps down, way off pace. He still has some cosmetic damage done to that 5 car, certainly hurting the aerodynamics. It doesn't look like he is going to have the race pace to really even catch up to the pack. I mean, being multiple laps down here in a field like this is going to hurt. There's not going to be a whole lot of cautions left in this race, so a tough break for Greg Wyszynski again. Stage 1 winner, was battling it out there in that top 5 before hooking Kenny Powell. So an unfortunate end to Greg's race here, week 2 of the ISCA Cup Series on Saturday night. Plenty of season left, though, of course. He'll have some opportunities next week to capitalize on that. He certainly had the speed here tonight. Brian Johnson with over a second lead on 3rd place car Matthew Tyrrell. It's really the Johnson show right now with Brian and Chris running 1-2. You see the gap that they've created for themselves versus the rest of the field. It's a good look right there on the backstretch. And Marty Phillips and Wayne Grassi still battling out side by side. That's 4th and 5th. Robert Pettengale relinquishing that spot back to Wayne Grassi. He did have the 5th spot there for a little while. Pedro, who started the 3rd stage in 10th, he's now found himself back into 7th. But that's over 5 seconds from the leader right now. So that's going to be a tough hill to climb for some of these drivers. It looks like 1st through 5th, that 5th spot by Wayne Grassi, 2 seconds off the race leader. But after that, 6th, 7th, and 8th, these guys are all over 5 seconds from the race lead. So that's going to be really tough to try to diminish that lead that Brian Johnson and the rest of the guys up there in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th have created for themselves. I mean, we see that lead grow right now, even between Brian and 3rd place Matthew. That's approaching the 2-second gap right there, and it does. So his lead now over 3rd place driver is over 2 seconds. Chris Johnson trying to hang around there, but he's about a half second behind Brian. It's going to be a tough task trying to catch this 4 car. Hopefully, when you're up there in the lead, it's hard to gauge tire wear. You know, I mean, it's in the back of your mind. You know you need to save your tires, but when you're up front, you got to go. I mean, you don't want to give up that lead. You don't have a bunny car to chase around the track to be able to see when they're lifting or how much they're lifting. So it's kind of tough being out there in the race lead all by yourself. But you can see just comfortably up there, almost a 3-second lead now on Matthew Tyrrell. 48 car of Chris Johnson trying to do his best to keep pace, but that's over a half a second now. So much like we saw in the 2nd stage, Brian Johnson in cruise control here at Las Vegas. We've only had 1 caution minus the stages here tonight. Of course, that was between Greg Wychinski and Kenny Powell. We touched base on that a couple of laps ago. Tough break for those guys. They're right up there in that top 5. Greg maybe even put in the conversation of a podium driver here tonight. But other than that, it has been green flag the whole way through. Some phenomenal racing being presented to you guys. We are live across all 3 platforms, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. Make sure you drop a like, subscribe, follow. So these guys have action all week long, and here now adding the Cup Series on Saturday nights. We're only our 2nd week in, so plenty of racing going to be done here on Saturday nights. Turn on notifications. Don't miss a broadcast. So back here with Matthew Tyrrell, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 6th. These 4 drivers right now, this is where all the action is happening on the track. Those Pennzoil guys still racing side by side. It's been like that pretty much since the green flag drop of stage 3. The 17 car of Robert Pettengale still holding strong there. He's not losing much pace off these guys back there in 6th. But right now, Matthew Tyrrell would love nothing more than a podium here in week 2. But you see what I was talking about with the multi-groove racing here at Vegas. You had the 7 car all the way onto the bottom by the white stripe. The 17 car behind him was in that midline, and the 21 car, he's favoring that high side right now. This whole racetrack can be driven here pretty competitively and be able to keep pace. Now these guys are single file, which I think might be for the first time here in the 3rd stage. We'll see if that high side for the 21 car pays dividends later on into the race. really not using up as much tires as maybe some of these other guys that are down there by that white stripe. You see the 7 car still going down there. Now, the guys that like the low line, the bottom feeders, as their tires progress and they start losing their wear, you'll start seeing some of these guys put a little bit of those left side tires on the white line, maybe even below a little bit of the white line. And what that's going to do is that's going to turn the nose of the car to be able to get down into the turn. And I think that's what that 7 car, he's almost there. He's on the white line. If you see him go below the white line, that's all he's doing. He's trying to get that nose to turn a little bit for him because he's more comfortable riding that low line than he is the high side. We see it right there as well. Now, the risk with that, if you go too far below that white line, you are getting loose. Your rear end is coming out from under you, and there's really no saving that. So it's a fine line to ride the white line, but a lot of drivers will do that. Especially if they're a bottom feeder. A lot of guys don't like that high side. The car starts tightening up when you lose grip. You start flirting with that wall. Once you get onto that wall, it reaches out and grabs you. You're kind of stuck there because of the banking here at Las Vegas. But whatever the 7 car is doing, it's certainly working for him. As he's onto the back bumper of the 29 car, Matthew Tyrrell. We see Matthew dip all the way down below that white line. And here comes Wayne Grassi trying to make a move for that 3rd spot. Matthew, though, so good on that racing line. He's ran pretty much the same line all night, doing a phenomenal job, carrying so much momentum off corner exit. You see him getting a little bit lower there, trying to keep that 7 car in check, if you will, making sure that he slams the door on the 7 car. He's definitely doing some mirror driving right now. Some defensive driving coming out of Matthew Tyrrell. He knows Wayne Grassi is pumping it up a little bit. Certainly trying to make the pass. Behind them, Marty Phillips and Robert Pettengale. Those guys battling it out right now for 5th. But you see the gap between the 29, the 7, and those 2 guys. So right now, it's a 2-man race for that 3rd spot. Almost a 2.5 seconds between Brian Johnson and Chris Johnson. A 6-second lead right now between Brian and that 4th place Wayne Grassi right now. So, again, Brian Johnson in cruise control at the front of this race. But right now, it's certainly cooking up for that last podium spot between these 2 drivers. The 29 of Matthew Tyrrell, who's had a really good clean run here. I mean, he's only up 3 spots. He started P6, but he kind of floated around there in that 5th and 6th spot pretty much the whole race. At the end of stage 2, he really started turning it on. He had a good pit stop. He came out P3. He's been able to manage to maintain P3 and really just been having a really good race about how he wanted to go about racing. He's kept it clean, stayed out of trouble. He missed that engagement between Greg and Kenny. Looks like Martin Bork in the 71 car, he goes a lap down now. That was one of those drivers that we had talked about at the beginning of this stage that were a little bit off race pace. Same with Frank Flores, who I think is now coming down pit road. Yes, he is. So a couple of those drivers, Frank Flores, Martin Bork, were certainly off race pace at the beginning of this. You now see one of them down pit road, the other already down a lap. Jay Hone in 8th. He's the last car on lead lap right now. He was another one of those cars that we talked about really having to try to pick up the pace. He's only 3 seconds behind Pedro Henrique. So if he can get a good run here, try to sneak his way up into contention for a top 5, I'd call that a good night for the 38 car. But just not having the pace here at Las Vegas. If we check back in with the race leader just momentarily, Brian Johnson, 1.28 second lead over Chris Johnson, having himself 2 stages here in a row of just complete dominance out of this 4 car. Lap 110. These guys got 24 laps to start really making their surge up towards the front. But right now, if this stays green, I really don't see anybody. Well, we see that 4 car get a little bit loose there. I don't think it was anything crazy. But he's running that mid-line. It looked like he got a little bit squirrely there on lap 111. Nothing he couldn't save. Certainly knows he can't do that again. And Chris Johnson coming down for his green flag pit stop right now. That 48 car going to come down, get some fuel, some tires, maybe some strategy coming in here, pitting us a little bit earlier than some of these other guys. 75% fuel here, I believe, tonight. They had 5 sets of tires coming in, 0 quick repairs, so no mistakes given to any of these guys. And we start seeing some green flag pit stops out of these guys. Chris Johnson. Now here comes race leader Brian Johnson. So it wasn't too early to make that decision for Chris to come down pit road. And we'll start making our green flag pit stops here as these cars will start shuffling in and out. Wayne Grassi, the new race leader in that 7 car. We'll see if he stays out to lead a lap. Robert Pettengale as well. We'll see if some of these guys that have kind of been in the back of the field stay out, try to lead a lap. As you see, Brian Johnson off pit road now. Back onto the racetrack. So we'll start seeing these guys shuffle. Now, the guys that have come down pit road, Brian Johnson and Chris Johnson, most certainly don't want to see a caution right now as they are currently a lap down because the cars that have chose to stay out up to this point. So when you decide to make that decision to come down pit road, which Wayne Grassi is currently doing, you want everybody to be as spread out as possible. You want green flag racing. You want these shuffles to happen so that you can get back up into your top spot. You certainly don't want a caution when you decide to come down and do a green flag pit stop. But it has to be done. So these guys coming down pit road, it looked like pit window opened right there like lap 12. Probably closed lap 118 at the most. 20 laps is what these guys will have on their fresh tires, and that's huge. That means these guys can pretty much go all out 15, 20 laps before that right front really starts taking some damage there. But this should be a strong finish for all these drivers out here. So I'm pretty sure everybody but Robert Pettengale has come down pit road, and that means Brian Johnson's going to retain the lead here in about a lap or two when that 17 car does decide to come down, which he is right now. It looks like, yep, he's hard on the brakes coming down pit road. So that is going to be all the green flag pit stops. And Brian Johnson is now going to shuffle back into the race lead, and it looks like he's going to have almost 6 seconds on Matthew Tyrrell. So with this lap almost coming to a conclusion here, Brian Johnson certainly the favorite to win with having such a big lead over Matthew Tyrrell. Marty Phillips in the 21 car. Looks like he's going to come out of these green flag pit stops in third. You see the pass, Brian Johnson onto Robert. As Robert came down pit road, it's going to go Matthew Tyrrell, Marty Phillips, Wayne Grassi, and I think Martin Bork going to be your new top 5 drivers. As unfortunately, Chris Johnson maybe not having the pit stop that he wanted. He's currently back in 10th right now. He was essentially second place the entire third stage. He was the first one that decided to come down pit road. Brian Johnson decided to stay out only a lap longer than Chris. But for Chris to be all the way back there in 10th, I'm not too sure what happened with that. As it looks like he's now down a lap. So not too sure what happened with Chris. I wonder if maybe he had some optional repairs he wanted to take care of. Thought it was worth it, but right now he finds himself a lap down here in stage 3. It looked like he was definitely a lock for that second spot. Maybe being able to put some pressure on Brian Johnson for the lead or for the win. But he found himself into some trouble, so it's Matthew Tyrrell who's going to take full advantage of that and move up to that second spot. Now, again, that race lead by Brian Johnson almost all the way up to 7 seconds and still climbing. So right now it's a race for second between Matthew Tyrrell and Marty Phillips. Of course, Wayne Grossi trying to get into the mix of that podium. He's about 1.2 seconds off Matthew Tyrrell. So Matthew still with a comfortable lead in that second spot, but one time getting loose or scraping the wall, Marty going to be there to collect that pace onto Matthew Tyrrell. So Matthew really just holding out for dear life, running his racing line, making sure he's not making any mistakes. He's going to walk out of here with a nice P2. Right now, Brian Johnson just counting down the laps till he sees that white flag. He knows 8-second lead over Matthew Tyrrell. A dominant performance out of that Chevrolet car here tonight. Won stage 2, looking to take home the checkered and take home some massive points here in what is only week 2 of this Cup Series. A lot of these drivers spaced out at this point in the race. Matthew Tyrrell in second, Wayne Grossi still third. Him and Marty Phillips were side by side for the majority of this stage, but it looks like Wayne Grossi, before those green flag pit stops, really caught some momentum, really got into his groove, even challenged Tyrrell for second at one point, but he's left Marty Phillips behind. You see the lap car of Chris Johnson in that 48 car. Again, don't know what happened with him. He was running P2 before those green flag pit stops. Unfortunately, now finding himself lap down. So that's not for position between that 7 and that 21 car. Right now we have a race for second place. On the inside, Wayne Grossi looking to get underneath Matthew Tyrrell. Doesn't have enough. Down to the backstretch. He's going to be taking a peek again on that inside line. Matthew Tyrrell, though, holding strong on that outside line. And there is the pass for second. Wayne Grossi finally finding the opening that he needed onto the inside of the 29 car. Matthew Tyrrell down the backstretch. We have a new second place driver. He's been working that line all stage long. the persistence and the consistency out of Wayne Grossi, impressive to be able to take that second spot from Matthew Tyrrell. But the race ain't over yet. Matthew now trying to rebound after that. We'll see if he takes a page out of Wayne Grossi's book and starts going down low. It doesn't look like he is. Nope, there he is now, down above the white line. But I don't know if he's going to have the pace to be able to catch Wayne Grossi here late in the stage. As you see, just 5 laps to go. A 9-second lead almost between Brian Johnson and the car on your screen right now. Wayne Grossi, Matthew Tyrrell. Will he try to make a run for that second place? Will he get a run for second place? Down to the backstretch, down into turn 3, still single file. Wayne being able to run that low line all race long and really just paying off for him towards the end of this race. These guys talking about radio right now, talking about getting loose at the bottom of the track here, but Matthew not really having any choice but to try and follow the 7 car all the way down to that bottom line to try to get a run onto Wayne, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it. 3 laps to go. We'll catch back up with the leader here in a moment. Right now, we're watching Wayne Grossi and Matthew Tyrrell. The closest action on the track right now for P2. Grossi sticking to his guns, holding that racing line. I wasn't too sure if he was going to be able to find the pace to be able to pass Matthew Tyrrell. He most certainly did. Not giving up on himself and giving up on that low line. Finally being able to make the pass onto Tyrrell when it counted the most. The white flag to Brian Johnson. He'll go one more lap around. A 9.2 second lead to pick up the win at Las Vegas, the second week of the ISCA Cup Series on Saturday nights. Out of turn 4, onto the front stretch. Brian Johnson's going to take home the checkered in a dominating fashion. Back there for second. Getting into some lap traffic. The 29 car trying to catch up to the 7. It looked like if they had one more lap, he might have actually gotten a run on the 7 car of Wayne Grossi. But it's going to be Wayne taking home P2. Matthew Tyrrell still in that podium in P3. Marty Phillips in the 21 car in 4th. Pedro Henrique in the 41 car, fighting all night long, up 7 spots. He started dead last in this race, and he finds himself taking home a top 5. So phenomenal run by Pedro Henrique. Frank Flores in 6th, Jay Hone in 7th, Robert Pettengale in 8th, Martin Bork in 9th. Chris Johnson in the 48 car going to be 10th. And, of course, the 2 guys that wrecked in our only caution of the night, Greg Wachinski and Kenny Powell, 11th and 12th. As we see the celebration from Brian Johnson momentarily. Not a very long one, but a deserving one as he dominates Stage 2 and Stage 3 to be able to take home the win here tonight. Okay.
Butt Kicker. Feel what you've been missing. Get yours today at thebuttkicker.com and be sure to use our 20% discount promo code ISCA20.
Welcome back to the conclusion of the ISCA Super Cup Series at Las Vegas. We're going to pull some drivers in for some interviews. I'd like to bring back Chris Johnson. Where'd he end up going? Can we pull him back into the booth? Like to get a word with that 48 car. He looked dominant all night long. Hey, Chris, do you got a minute?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Chris, I wanted to bring you in here. You were very dominant all night long, up there in the podium, top 5, especially stage 2, following Brian Johnson in second. Stage 3, talk to me about that green flag pit stop. You were the first one to come down pit road. We started looking at some of the other drivers that were shuffling in and out. Next thing I know, you were lapped down.
Well, that's what happens when you make a mistake. I didn't think I was going in that fast. The sun glare got me messed up. Next thing you know, they threw me a black flag, and I ended up a lap down.
So speeding down pit road. Well, I certainly didn't want to bring you in here to kick you while you're already down, but I was just curious because I had no information on that. Unfortunate for you as you looked really, really fast all night. Of course, a long season, though. You'll be able to bounce back next week. Up until then, though, Chris, phenomenal job here tonight.
Yeah, I didn't think I had the car to beat Brian. I would have had to short pit and possibly get him that way or wait for him to make a mistake, but Brian was hard beat tonight.
Absolutely, Chris, and we appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, sir.
Now for the podium drivers, Matthew, Tyrell. You kind of hung around in the middle of the field all night long, but at the end of stage 2, I had mentioned you really looked like you were coming alive at the end of stage 2. Stage 3, it was your stage. You got up to second. Unfortunately, Wayne being able to pass you there for second. But however, week 2, podium finish, third, got to be feeling good.
Yeah, I feel good with third. I'm happy. I'm still trying to figure out this high downforce package. It's not been my strong suit, but yeah, I just kept working on the car throughout the race. Pretty much every stage I made an adjustment except for that very last pit stop. I just left it. Yeah, the car felt really good. Just I didn't have the long run speed to really kind of keep up. And then I know right there at the end, Wayne pitted 1 or 2 laps after I did. So you know what? I'll take third. That was a really, really strong run, and I feel real happy with it.
A phenomenal run there, taking home a podium week 2. Congratulations, and we'll move on to next week, Tyro.
All right, sounds good.
So the 7 car of Wayne Grossi, is it?
Yes, it is.
So I talked a little bit to the audience and tried to explain to them what a bottom feeder was, and hopefully it doesn't sound like an insult because it kind of does. But I was explaining to them, especially on a 1.5 miles, but even in the shorter tracks, you got guys that just don't want to run outside. It's not that they can't, but they're really comfortable on the bottom, chasing that white line. It looked like for the most part of stage 3, you weren't really going to catch Matthew Tyrell. And I was wondering if maybe you should shift up high, but you kept feeding that bottom. And towards the end of the race, you were able to make that pass and take home P2. Talk to me a little bit about your strategy throughout the entire night.
Yeah, I definitely like to run the bottom. That's pretty much where I stay. And but the track temp or something was different tonight, and I was a little tight. So every pit stop, I was adding tire pressure, and finally, in the last stop, I finally took a swing at it and got it, and so, to where I was very comfortable with the car. And that's it. That's how I got to the front.
Well, awesome stuff. For a while there, you and Marty Phillips were pretty much side by side. I wasn't too sure if that was going to hurt both of you guys in the end, but it most certainly didn't. Taking home a clean P2, making the pass on Matthew Tyrell with just laps left. Congratulations on the P2 here in week 2.
All right, thanks a lot.
race leader in the 4-car, Brian Johnson. Brian, you let stage 1 get away from you. You could have had a sweep there. Greg Wychinski winning stage 1. After that, it was the Brian Johnson show. Talk to me a little bit about stage 1. Were you holding back a little bit, or were you just trying to make it cleanly until you felt like you had an opening to take over the race?
Yeah, I was just buying some time. This Southern Spiral Pipe Chevrolet was on rails tonight. But Kenny, Greg, Chris, Wayne, they all had really fast cars. But, the goal was just to ride in line, create some separation, and make the pass for the lead and check out. So, but Chris was able to hang in there. I hate that he got caught speeding on pit road. I think it was going to be a good race there at the end. Hate that Kenny and Greg got wrecked out there. Teammates, hate to see that. But overall, pretty good race. Car felt great. Had to loosen it up. The 75% fuel load tightens up the car. So really had to loosen it up throughout the run. But she was on rails, and away we went.
Yeah, most certainly on rails. I think when we checked in with you towards the end of that race, you had about a 9-second lead. I think it also probably took advantage. I mean, Wayne Grassi, Matthew Tyrell were fighting it. There was a lot of guys there in that 3rd, 4th spot that were too wide for a lot of that stage 3, really allowing for you to get into that clean air up front, race your own race your pace, and just a phenomenal drive out of that 4 Chevrolet car. Brian Johnson, your race winner here at Las Vegas. Congratulations.
Thanks, Brandon. And shout out to Kenny for putting this on, Tucson Sound Art for sponsoring this event, and thanks for everybody who's involved.
All righty, that was race winner Brian Johnson. Shout out to league owner Kenny Powell. Rob Melnick on the back end of the production did a phenomenal job for you guys here tonight. For iRacing Stock Car Association, I'm Brandon Robinson, and we'll see you next time.